Scott McKay, Nino, they were all showing him videos of mine. And he goes, she's had radiation exposure. Get her referred to me. And he sent me to a specialist. And honest to goodness, I don't know if I'd be here because I kept plateauing until he got me to that specialist. So the next day I sent him a text and I said, sir, I'd like to thank you, maybe buy you a cup of coffee and maybe give you a book. That was the idea. So I meet him at the Trump. And when I meet him, God said, now, before you go in, give him a book. And so I said, sir, I'm supposed to give you a book. And so I gave him a book. And then God said, well, don't just give him that book, give him this book. And then give him the book series. And then give him. And so God just kept saying, give him this book, give him that book. So next thing you know, he's got one of every one of my books. And I looked at him and I said, you just got to make me a promise. He said, what's that? I said, sir, the president has them. He has some duplicates of some. Melania asked for different ones, and she has some duplicates through her assistant of some. But, sir, I don't want you making our president jealous. He doesn't have all of them, and now you have all of them. And I think that I looked at him that night, and the next day when we met for dinner, he said, wow. So Harold Bredesen, when did you know him? And I'm not kidding him. It's the same year as we were with them in different parts of California, and then he ended up traveling with them. He was on projects with them, and we know all the same people in the different nations. It's like, wait a minute, you know what I mean? How did he know all that within 24 hours? He amazes me.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I have all this military experience and experience in the CIA, and I'm like, I got some stuff that Juan doesn't know anything about. And I mentioned it, he's like, and then he'll go like in detail about that. I'm like, there's no way you knew that unless you're like there and on a different level with it than I even was exposed to. It's like, wow.
Well, that's a shock. I mean, people go, can you really believe, Juan, can you really believe what he's saying? I said, look, every topic I bring up with him is the same thing that I experienced, Michael. I'll bring it up. I'll tell him the depth that I was taken to. And it's like he's a genius in every category, and he'll take that same thing and he goes, oh, well, this is the other part of that, Sheila, and right beyond that is this. And he's explaining it. He's going like 4 levels above where I am. I'm like, wait a minute. I spent a lot of time on this. So it's been really fun. Really fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. And so that's amazing. Now, I'm going to bring up this little slide presentation that you sent me. If you want to go down this road a little bit on this, this is pretty amazing how you survived this. And I was reading over this. I'm like, a lot of people that were exposed to this at Linwood's event passed over, unfortunately, and you were one of the few survivors.
Well, remember back in 21 when everybody was sent to the hospital and they all were told they had COVID?
Yeah.
It wasn't true. They didn't have COVID. It's the cobra venom that strangles you and you don't have oxygen.
Right.
And so when the cobra venom is passing through your system, it's taking you out. And as you keep trying to help yourself, it gets worse because you're using adrenaline and it's getting worse. And you have been in, SEAL team and CIA, so you know a lot more about how these things affect. Mm-hmm. But it's been a tough thing to get to the bottom of this because people who have cobra venom, a dose, they're dead in a very short period of time. And I've had so many doses flowing through my system, and all we can tell is it's making fibrous trails as it goes through. But it's kind of golden in color, and it has been extremely, extremely hot because it mixes. I have lethal copper and lethal mercury flowing with it. And either one of those should have taken me out, and they're combined in some areas. So there are a couple of pictures on this PowerPoint where it shows that. Now, this gal was in a wheelchair the week before, but that's how I looked when I left. And Scott McKay referred me to Juan, and he said, Sheila, you were sick that night. Look at your eyes. And I'm like, oh, my God. And but anyway, that's what happened. She was in a wheelchair the week before, and she said, next time I want a hug and a selfie. And she was out of her wheelchair as I was leaving. So that's the very moment I was leaving Linwood's estate. We were at Cotton Hall Plantation. The next slide shows you where I met Linwood the week before, and that was at Spartanburg. And there was a big event in Spartanburg, and he was one of the main speakers. And I expressed some things in the morning, and then Presley Stutz, I think you probably met him over time. he ended up questioning me because people gave him all sorts of questions. And so he like interview questioned me all afternoon. And it was really powerful to give them the information because they did not know about the secret societies. Now you're in the books and you're getting into the secret societies, but they didn't know that once you go through Masons and Shriners and all that, you go through all these knighthood orders. And it starts with Order of Paladins, and everybody just started making crazy noises. I said, what's going on? And they said, didn't you know our football teams, college, high school, they're all called the Paladins? I said, well, it's a Wiccan order of knighthood, and then you have to go through all the knighthood orders up to the Order of Malta, which is a sovereign international law order before you can go in Knights of Pythias. And they're all like, oh my God. And so that was a fascinating day. And it was the very next week, and that's the next slide, that we were at Cotton Hall Plantation. And 24 people went to the hospital and reported symptoms, but didn't lose all their oxygen. But the other 5 speakers all went to the hospital, and they all died within a month.
Oh.
And then I listed, you remember Rob Skiba, Flat Earth, and Russ Dizdar, 7 Layers of Luciferianism, and Ronnie Williamson, and then Russ Dizdar's wife, and then Paul Obel. All these people, I mean, there were so many. I lost more than 20 friends between July and December of 21, but I had no energy. I was crawling in my house for 5 months, and I had no energy, no strength. I couldn't do anything, and I had a meal delivered once a day, and sometimes it'd be 2 hours before I had the energy to go down to the door and get it. It's just crazy.
Oh my God.
So,
so you were bioweapon attacked. Now I've been bioweapon attacked at events as well. And Scott McKay lost his father, and all of his crew were bioweapon attacked. These events can be deadly. We're trying to reveal great information for people, but it's a war out there against us.
Well, and that's what people didn't understand. This is, they're doing to us through other devices what they're putting in some of the vaccines. And so we're dealing with this, and that's why now we're starting a Defend Against Bioweapon Targeting boot camp, because you need to know the products that are going to get you through this naturally, so you don't go in and let them put remdesivir. They're even putting fentanyl in people, more than would kill a horse. The doses are so high. And that's why they don't let family visit them when they're in the hospital. They don't feed them. They're not giving them water. And they have 4 poisons they're giving them on a regular basis, day in and day out, with no moisture, no hydration, and no food. Wow. And so I've been speaking at Halt Hospital Homicide. I was there in San Antonio with them. I was at Houston at Medical Freedom with Dr. Artis. We're doing everything we can to tell people there are products that can get you through this. I mean, I'm the proof of it. All of these poisons. I mean, like the specialist that Juan referred me to, she tells everybody, I can't believe every time that woman comes in, she's still alive. And all my friends that I thought were just helping me cut fruit and stuff because I couldn't do anything for myself, they all thought I was going to die too. Nobody thought I was going to make it.
Mm. Yeah, that's amazing that you pulled through. So that's definitely the Lord had plans for you. That's great.
Well, and to know that this, like, let's say that you and I were at an event today, and unless we get 2 and 3 doses, we don't have all of the final horrific symptoms for like 10, 12 days. And then people can't remember, well, where did I get this? Or how did this happen? So that's why I explained the progressive symptoms of this. It took 12 days. And on the 12th morning, on the 29th of July, boom, I couldn't get out of bed. I had no strength. I could barely text. I wasn't getting the letters right and the texting, and to get help. And because you're done. You have no oxygen. You can't get breath. It's absolutely amazing. But then I gave some descriptions of what it was, because people said, what are they using? And it's several different devices. We know they're using drones by remote to deliver some of it. We know they're using EMF weapons to deliver some of the protein spike. We know they're using DMSO, that's a good medical product, to help people quickly get through something. And they're using it with the stuff against us, and it's going into our bloodstream right away. So, I mean, there's just many things. The radiation hit I took to my brainstem is what caused me to lose my voice, and I still have some brain fog. But 6 months later, in my first exam, I was 183 on my left side and 108 on my right. And that's why she said I shouldn't have been alive. But she told me I was 98. And I said, I don't want to look 98. I don't want to act 98. So can we do something? And then she just told me the end of last year that, by the way, she said you were 183 and 108. And I said, well, why didn't you tell me? And she said, look back at your chart. You had 9 things that were still going to kill you. I couldn't give you that. And so, but I lost all my hair. The next slide shows you the one with Laura Logan. That was at Election Integrity in South Carolina. She filled in for Juan that night. And all there is black spray paint to make it look like I had hair. And then a few hairs were still on, but they were so radiation affected, I just tried to keep them calm. So.
Goodness. Wow. That is amazing. And here's some of that blood work you were talking about.
Yeah, now where you can kind of see through it on the left, that's the copper. And when it's real solid, that's the mercury. And so you can see where some areas it's combined. And then on the right, it's almost all solid mercury. And those two are lethal levels. And then combined should absolutely take you out. And none of it has taken me out yet. And it was also mixed with the cobra venom. And so in September, this is just last year in September, I asked her to pray with me that, this gets better. And so I said, God, could you just please sort this out? Because when they come out together and where I took the kill shot over the heart, that's where it's the most vulnerable. That gave me double breast cancer. The EMF weapon to my right put protein spike and radioactive seeds filled with the cobra venom that every time they blossom, I get another dose. That was in my lungs and liver on the right. And I ended up with cancers all down the left side of my body from my face to my feet. And so when all of these were coming out through that vulnerable area, they were leaking out. And when they came out together, it was so hot. I just told her, I said, can we just do this? I said, God, whatever you can do to sort this out, because this is so painful. And when it's that hot, you can't calm it down. You can't restrain it. And so I go back for my exam in November. I was going every month and then every 2 months last year. And when I went back in November, she said, oh my gosh. And I said, what? And when she was putting the equipment right over the left inside of the left breast where it was leaking, she said, look at this. I said, what's that? And she showed me. And it was the weirdest thing. It's skin, under skin. And yet there's a pathway and there's like 7 valves. And you can see the liquid come across the top, and then it's sorted into these individual valves. And the mercury was a little bit beige, and the copper had a bit of a cinnamon look to it. And the golden one was the cobra venom. And they separated, and then she watched them leaking out. And I was just like, oh, my goodness. So It's just been quite a journey, but we can survive this. It says right in Scripture, they can poison us, but we can survive it.
Absolutely.
And because I live, it almost sounds like a song, doesn't it? Because I live, we found this patent, and came out.
This really stunned me, but it makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm. And it's being created in Grand Rapids, Michigan, right in the United States, and our government is in it. And the patent, you can see where it's given 6 of our taxpayer grants went to NIH Fauci to do this. And the government holds a % interest, which is against our Constitution. And they did this because he won. Because they were ready for a genocide. Every 20 years in every century, I've gone back as far, Mike, as far as 1320. I haven't been able to go back before that. But every 20 years, because 20 on their kingdom side is recycle unto death. And so 13, 20, 14, 15, 16, every 20 year, 1920, we were in mass for 3 years or go to jail, and people were dying of bacterial pneumonia and falling in the streets, and everyone that got vaccinated died. And it was the H1N1 virus. It wasn't a flu. It wasn't from Spain. Everything's been a lie. But if we would have known that every 20 year of every century, they do these pandemics, we probably could have been ready for the genocide, because 2020 was their ultimate to take us out. Wow. So they came out with this bioweapon patent. And the reason we could find this is I'm living through all these layers. And I'm so grateful because a specialist that Juan found has like 16 different degrees on all of these different things. She was involved with 3 Mile Island. She has all this wisdom on the radiation to get me through that. But here it is. So funny that on January 10, our own U.S. Patent Office released this and approved this patent against us, with our government holding an interest in the bioweapon used against us using our tax money. It's just beyond comprehension. And the very next day, Fauci was everywhere. Now, James Grunberg has mentioned that he's aware of where that happened on January 11, 2017. He said, oh my goodness, he was in Georgetown. And he was giving this. He said, I remembered hearing it. I remembered being around all of this information back then, but he said, I didn't put it together because nobody knew what that related to. That's some infectious disease outbreak. But if you know it in advance, you would do something about it.
Yeah, so so who do you think in our government that's keeping that going? Because Trump was in office during that time frame, and the government holds the patents, and they're probably, it says right here, they're holding an interest. So the interest means they're getting money for that, right?
Yes. And they can't have percents of businesses, but they have a percent in this invention of a bioweapon they're using against us. That is what really shocked me. But we do know that there's DOD involvement. Now, is it the whole DOD? No. It's just like there are people in the military that are operating against us. Is it the whole military? No. But there are those who are operating against us, and they're benefiting from this. And that was the really hard pill to take. I mean, it's just like, how do we get ahead of this with this being the case? But that's why the medicines they're using, that's why the vaccines they're using, because it's all been a plan. This goes all the way back, way before we were a nation. And if you think about the centralized banks, it was Jefferson and Adams that fought to say you can't have a percent interest in these centralized banks. You're the government, and it's against the Constitution. And of course, they took them out with the poison. But I just shared this at Trump Durrell in October, this particular slide, and Brian Artis didn't know. God had me look up virus, because remember they kept saying, you got this virus, you got that virus, we're going to give you this for the virus. And God said, look it up in Latin. And the Latin definition of virus is a venom, a poison. And that's what all of these have been, variations of venoms and poisons.
Wow. Yeah, I was at an event that Artis and several of those other doctors that he's working with put on an event in Dallas. The Ages event, that was stunningly informative, just amazing. Venom is just basically in everything. And of course, they got Caduceus has got the snake going up it. It's like it's all in our face, like you talk about in your books. It's amazing.
Well, and that event is what led to, because they didn't have anybody who survived it who could talk about it. So we've got Dr. Artis is going to be sharing about the venoms and how we can deal with them and eradicate it from our system. And Dr. Judy Mikovits is a genius scientist. So she is the one who found out, I believe, and gave it to RFK Jr. is what's happening on Lyme and HIV. Those were created in the lab, and they have the same roots, HIV and Lyme. And so those have been weapons against people too, that they didn't come from these other things, just like this didn't come from a bat. And so she's going to be involved in this. Dr. Group, who's doing the formulation. I'm going to be the survivor that's going to share what we can do to get through this. And then Tom Renz is working and thinks he has it all set up that we can get a healthy passport instead of a vaccine passport that proves that we're healthy. And so he's legally working that all out for us.
Very good. Yeah, this is lots of toxic stuff in that.
Radioactive stuff that destroys our cells.
It's crazy.
And then this is when I first talked about the guidestones going down. That was the same day they went down. On on July 6th. And that was the same day that I was being put up on Times Square for the books. And so they called back and said, she just sent us a picture that happened at 4 a.m. because I got the video from the guys right away. And then I took still shots. So ones on the bottom are still shots that I took off of the video they gave.
That's up
It's
your,
a quick
your
video.
presentation.
I
thought I was going to bring the basic guidestones being blown up. Now, Lewis Herms was doing an event, and I was going to speak at that event, and I was at an earlier event, and someone shook my hand, and I got very, very sick. So that's how they basically transfer it too. They wear a glove, and basically this guy was like eyeing me, and I saw him eyeing me. I was like, I don't know about that guy. And then he came up, stuck his hand out, and I'm kind of like at these events, I say hi to people, and I shook his hand that night. I almost died. So it's extreme. So I kind of laid back a little bit, and but I was sending. We were all like sending love to the Georgia Guidestones, and we're supposed to visit it, and it blew up. So it's kind of cool. So I think a lot of us that are putting our attention on these events and this information and so forth are having an effect on it, like you are.
Absolutely. They were never planning on us finding out the truth. They were never planning on us countering their plan. I don't know if you heard, I'm working on a plan. There's a 45-point plan against us. They call it the Communist Manifesto, but you can put any title on it you want. Because there's only two kingdoms. There's those who want to bless and have the breath of life, and there's those who want to kill people, and everything about them is death. Their whole calendar is filled with you got to kill somebody on this date between 25 and 32, and yet it's almost like the Clue game. And then you got to do this to them and this to them, and then when you confirm it, then you get the promotion. It's just a whole different way of thinking, and the thinking about eliminating us from the planet and not being concerned about what that's doing. It's so hard to comprehend. Exactly what we're going through is just so hard to comprehend. And so what's been happening, not only with the patent that they've done with the vaccines, that they've done with absolutely everything that's been happening, and to figure out that it was a whole genocide. And who do they target? They target the military. They target the medical doctors who don't want to kill you. Well, then you have to leave your job if you don't want, you know what I mean? When the people who found out the truth, and it's all been about, we don't want you finding out the truth. We want you following our edicts and doing what we want you to do. So this 45-point plan was found by Todd Callender. I think you know Todd Callender. And he ended up giving me a copy of it. And I thought, well, it's really a tough thing to read through. And it kind of matches the Georgia Guidestone's 10 points. And so I said, it's got the same pathway. And so I kind of let it go. And by the time I was in Chicago at an event, I was speaking right before Juan in August, the week before Reawaken in Vegas. And it came out of my mouth that what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to write some things as to how we've compromised with these 45 points, and I'll get it out as soon as I can. Well, between Chicago and Vegas, I ended up pulling over on the side of the road, because it's like, if they know the counter plan to God's plan, and the people who say they're God's people don't know the plan, it has to be like a training manual, because if we don't understand how they've done this to us, because they keep repeating the same plan, they don't have a new plan. That's why they say we've got the playbook, it never changes, because it's human wisdom. And so if that's the case, then we have to tell them these other sides to it. So when I got done in Vegas, I wrote out some things, and I'd already written out 44 and 45. God wanted me to start from the back. And so 44 and 45, I said, they're not related. 44 is you've got to internationalize the Panama Canal. I'm like, what does that have to do with seizing the nation and all people into the world court? I think, God, these don't relate at all. Every law journal that he sent me to, Kentucky, Tennessee, all these different law journals that he sent me to, every one of them compared the two, because if they didn't internationalize the Panama Canal, they can't just lump America into the world court, because we've got this land down here that we bought in 1903 over in Panama. So I was writing out all of this stuff, and I was testing the waters before I went to Chicago, and I sent it to some key people. Unbeknownst to me, it got to the president. And if you look at Tucker Carlson's, I can send you the transcript. If you look at the Tucker Carlson interview with the president, and it was in August this year, it was his first interview. And Tucker's talking to him, and they're talking about real key international things. And then, boom, the president says, back in 1903, we bought the Panama Canal, and we did it through a real estate transaction. And I think he said something like, we know about real estate. And now, China's in control, but you guys don't have to worry because I know Xi, and Xi's going to give it back to me, and we're going to have control of it again. And it never should have gone by a treaty with Carter. He's quoting everything in the research in points 44 and 45 and how it relates. And I'm just like, and then he goes off of it. And like 3 minutes later, he's back on it again. I'll send you the whole transcript, because when I went back and looked at the transcript, he kept coming back to Panama, because they can't because if we don't get Panama back, and we never should have given it up for $1 in a treaty, that's not how you resolve a real estate transaction. Right. And I emphasize that in the summary, and I'll send you all this research. But that's how deep this has been going now, Michael, is that it's gone from they're doing all of this to us. And instead of, okay, let's explain how they're doing this. Okay, wait a minute. We shouldn't even be compromising or complying with what they're doing in any of this stuff they've done, because it's affected every family. It's affected education. It's affected our big businesses. And they did it layer by layer by layer. This was read in January 10, 1963, as a resolution for dissolution of America to our congressional record 60 years ago.
My God. And I was at the Panama Canal for the Panama invasion. I was SEAL Team 6, and making sure that stayed in our hands, I guess. And that's one of those events that I was like, oh, Juan doesn't know anything about this. So I started talking about some deep stuff. And Juan's like, oh, yeah. Like I was like, oh, my God, you were there? Oh, my God. So it is interesting that you're tying all this together. And then Trump, I remember that interview, and I was like, where's he going with that? So now I understand. So, wow, putting the pieces together like this is just absolutely stunning. Well done.
Well, I'm gonna send all this to you, because I knew you'd be interested in this stuff, but I didn't want to overload you today, because there's so much about what's happening to the people in this country, and we've got to start standing up together with each other. That's what's so neat about Tracy. When she comes to these events, she just loving on all the people, and it just huge difference it makes. Yeah, huge difference.
Yeah, she's got her mind is like, it goes in lots of different places. Mine doesn't go, but she shares with me, and she shared your work with me, and I was like, wow. And then she finally got you on the show, so you're a hard person to get, but yeah, it's just amazing how all this comes together, and we're able to reveal this information to people.
Well, it's great, and I'll get you the summary of that, because it's really powerful. Thank you. Like number 13, avoid all loyalty oaths. Because you know about the Brunson case.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I'm going to take you on the pathway of the Brunson case. It's got like 388 people, and we want to hold them to their constitutional oath, right?
Mm-hmm.
None of the 388 took an oath.
None of them.
We gave them the
I didn't heard that recently they were taking their oaths. Is that probably misdirection?
Yeah, but they're not taking it on the Bible, but they have to do an affidavit signing an affidavit to cure it, and they refuse to do the 10-day cure. So then there's another case, and Todd Callender filed this case April 18 of this year, and he filed it. And we were having a conversation, because I've been dealing with all of this stuff, and God could send me to Georgia because of San Diego, because I put some judges in prison on federal RICO charges in San Diego. And so,
nice.
So God has me in Georgia doing these things. And we were just having a conversation. I said, you know what, Todd? How is it that all of these people could get away with this without taking an oath? What if the judges aren't even taking an oath? He said, well, that's interesting. So guess what? They did a research. Did you know none of our federal judges have taken an oath? And that
Wow.
includes especially the one in DC that's over all the judges over all the J6 cases.
No kidding. How about that? So it's almost like it's mute. Now, what I love about your work too is you go deep into speaking of Georgia, I remember that one thing you have in your book is book 2, where you talk about the unfortunately the Cherokee,
Yes.
and that's stunning. All your research in the and your historical stuff. I've pieced a few of these together over time, and then I look at your work and I'm like, there it all is in one spot. It's like, oh my God. So the Justice Marshall, Chief Justice Marshall, was basically favored the Cherokee, but the I like you say it was all Democrats, because we know that demon comes from Democrats. So the basically President Jackson said, Democrat, of course, John Marshall has made his decision basically in favor of the Cherokee Indian tribe, which the American government put them on a reservation, told them that they would protect them on that reservation, and then the state of Georgia said they're going to kick them out. So it's like, it's all convoluted. It makes no sense. He said, John Marshall has made his decision. Now let him enforce it, because these justices can say whatever they want. Unless someone enforces it, it's mute. Unless the federal government, the military, which they did, they came in really with no law backing and removed the Indians, the Trail of Tears, back all the way out to Oklahoma. So I guess Georgia was able to steal the gold off their lands. I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, there's 2 key points. You're bringing up such good points. I need to take notes to keep up. Okay, so number 1, these are going to be in book 6, because book 6 is in the beginning, ... in America. Book 7 is in the beginning, ... in ancient times. Because nothing has changed since the ark landed and Noah's sons, grandsons, great-grandsons all set up this evil plan. I mean, it's just the Tartarians. And I think I sent you something with Kissinger's book. I sent a picture of Kissinger's book, World Order, that came out on 9, which is 3 threes, 9, 3 threes. So 33, 2014, when they were going to take us all out on the Georgia Guidestones. It was set up for 2014 for depopulation.
Wow.
And so the word Tartaria, what's really interesting is it's hard to see because it's so light, this ancient map, but it takes a lot to expand it. But right above the title of his book says the word Tartaria. And Tartaria is where all this started. And then the business plan got put together in Khazaria. And I can send you all those maps too, because from the ancient map to now, Khazaria has taken, Khazaria in essence is Ukraine, it's part of Russia, it's Georgia, it's Crimea, it's all of those areas. They've taken over all of that, and it's called Ukraine, but that's why it has no borders.
Oh my God.
You see what I mean?
Oh, the connections. Boy, you're just blowing this all up. Oh my God, you're amazing.
It is
God is amazing through
it's
you.
not me.
Yeah, I know, right? I say the same thing all the time. It's like me. It's like, God working through me. So I love it.
So there was the Tartarians, and there was another thing when you were mentioning about the Guidestones. Because there was a second point. Oh, Andrew Jackson is going to be featured, not so lightly, in book 6. I'm working on both of those, but the 45 points has to come out first, and so it's kind of shifted things. Mm-hmm. So what happened is Andrew Jackson, everybody admires him. And the president has always admired him. Why? Because he removed the debt and equalize the tariffs. And that's what the president did. When he came in, remember, he straightened out the tariffs and NATO and removed the debt. I mean, he handled everything. And there's ways to do that, and that's what he did. So the first thing he did was to equalize the tariffs, then remove the debt. But nobody talks about his third goal. Andrew Jackson's third goal was he had to get all the Native American Indians on the other side of the Mississippi. They're the ones that had the
wow.
mansions on the East Coast. They're the ones that had the big farms. They're the ones that had that where the plantation owners were brought in and took over their land and pushed them out of their houses and off of their farms. And so, and the mansions were the same. One of the times I was hosted in Central Georgia, I was hosted at the mansion of Governor of Georgia for many years, Talmadge, I think his name is. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, it's at the mansion. And they showed me where the White House, the little White House, the bathroom, it was in the backyard, not the little White House like they have in Georgia where FDR was. But they showed all these things. And I said, well, how can they call this a mansion? And they said, well, in those times, everybody had that. And so it's just crazy how they took them out of their homes, sent them all the way to Oklahoma. And then what did they do when the other Europeans came in? They did land rushes where? In Oklahoma. So even the agreements they made, get out of here and go to Oklahoma, they just kept selling the land. So, but it was all started by Jackson. Now, here's the other thing God showed me by working with Lloyd Brunson and getting him a bunch of interviews when because he got his case in June. So Raylan's case has been there since January of this year, and now Lloyd's case has been there since June. And as I've been studying all this with a couple of constitutional attorneys, because we were trying to find someone who could get us immediately to the Supreme Court about the missing oaths on all of these people, especially the judges. So what I found out is, do you know who when you mentioned about Andrew Jackson said, well, let Justice Marshall enforce it. I didn't have this information in when I did the book that you just gave the quote from. Now I have the information. Do you know why he said that? It's up to the president to enforce the laws in the Constitution. So it was Jackson's responsibility to support that Supreme Court decision. But his third goal was to get them out of the East Coast and get them to the other side of the Mississippi. It was his handwritten goal. Number 3.
Wow.
We don't know these things,
I mean, even Washington warned about the Democrat party. What was it called back then? Democratic
National Socialist Party.
Even all the way back there during the
Socialist Party separated.
Washington, General Washington's time frame, first president.
Yeah, and they tried to say that Jefferson started the Democratic Republican Party. It was never a Democratic Republican Party. The Republican Party didn't start till 1854, 10 years before they brought all the secret societies in. Wow. So even though they started that party, they've been a uniparty from way, way back.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about the monuments. That's why I kept saying, you guys, we're fighting the same stuff we fought as of the Civil War. And they go, well, were you living then? And I said, no. And they said, well, show me any proof of that. I said, God told me we're fighting the same stuff, so we need to learn our lesson. That's all I knew. All I can do is say what he tells me and where he found it. And then, boom, he shows me that soldier monument. Now, the Guidestones just came down in July. I was driving to Batavia to speak at Reawaken in August. And so after the Guidestones came down, the oldest son of Banners for Freedom, Elijah, he loves war. So I got him this tour, and I got a bed and breakfast, and I thought they'd have a really fun time. Well, they were too late for the tour. So I said, God, I don't know what to do. And he said, just go to the gift shop and get a map. I'm like, I don't know how to give a tour. And when Robert's a lot taller than I am, and he opens up the map, and there is this monument. I said, it's identical to the Faith Monument. And he said, well, let's get over there. It's a soldier monument. There's no Bibles. There's no 10 Commandments. That what you've got right in the center there is the Faith Monument. And everything over on the soldier monument, their hands are down and open, all wanton. There's no messages on it. There's nothing about educating the children the way they should go. It goes from history to war instead of from morality to liberty.
Wow.
See, he's got to keep his own musket. He's got his foot on broken clay pots. It all became about assets. There was no future or hope or liberty or freedom. And by his left foot, he's got a stack of cannonballs. So he has to protect his own property and his own family. And so he came here and gave up everything to be here at this status. It breaks your heart to see it. And they dedicated it to Lincoln because they knew what he was putting together.
Wow. So that's a big, I mean, you broke down this other statue over here. What's the name of
The
this
Faith
one?
Monument.
The Faith Monument. So this is beautiful the way you broke this down. All the granite that's in it, because I guess they were saying in the the Georgia Guidestone's the biggest granite monument. No, this is much bigger.
This is 81 feet tall, and in the satanic side, their power number is number 19. And so it was 19 feet tall. Well, 19 versus 81. When I took the picture of the monument, when I first pulled in last year, I went back this year and did the second tour with them. But I had to back away from where I parked across the street to take a straight on picture. And God said, take it right now. Don't angle up. Take a straight on picture. And it's that tall. And there were like 6'3", 6'4" people standing by it. And they just looked like little munchkins standing by. They weren't even up to where these people even have their feet.
Mm. And break down all of these different. I love the way you broke down all these different statues that are morality, law, education, liberty.
Now morality is the first one to the right as you come up, and you come around from morality over to liberty. And morality has the eyes closed. It's holding the 10 Commandments. You can see the stones in the left hand, holding the Bible in the right. And with the eyes closed, operating from truth. And so morality, your conscience is important in all of this. And then law, it has to be equal. So you see where he's holding the 10 Commandments, and he's like, stop, pause, because if you did something to me or I did something to you today, what we do tonight is we gather our peers, we have them come together tonight or tomorrow, and it gets hashed out, because you don't have law if justice is not equal to mercy. And right now, lawlessness is because we have no mercy. There's no mercy with J6. There's no mercy with identity theft victims. There's no mercy with any of this. And it has to be equal. And you bring your peers together. That's the way it's supposed to be. And you get the matter resolved and go on with your lives. You don't wait 18 months, do depositions, blah, blah, blah. And then education is the next one. And in education, that is where the parents, the mom especially, at home with the children, teaching from the Bible. And on the side panels, it's the grandparents. And there's a globe and a Bible where they're teaching them the truth, because the only pre-existing law that is true law in the land is the Bible and the 10 Commandments. So what they've done is eliminate that. We don't get sworn in on the Bible anymore. We don't, in the court cases, it's not in the year of our Lord and the date. There is no commitment to that, which is in our constitutions. Our state constitutions are heavy in this. That's called pre-existing law. So we've gone completely over to what's called positive law, which is human law. So it's case decisions. So whatever the judge over in 10 towns over from you says, and another judge 15 towns over to the right of you says, whatever those judges say, which is human decisions, just like Chief Justice Marshall made his decision, but Jackson had a different decision. So we didn't have law for the Cherokee because it was human opinion and decision. You go and help them. When it was Jackson's responsibility as a president per the Constitution to uphold the law, and the law was what they were doing in protecting the land of the people who actually owned it, because the Cherokee owned all that land. Yeah. So that's where we are in the education system. If we don't understand that, because you have to come from morality around through these 4 points. And this is what the Pilgrims put together, because if these 4 points were followed, you'd be training up a child in the way they should go, and they would not depart from it, and they wouldn't fall for human law. They wouldn't fall for human medicines. They wouldn't fall for these things because they're aligned with the truth. So then you come around to Liberty, and I love Liberty. And on the side panel, I'll try and get you a copy of it. He's actually got his foot on the guy with the crown on his head, which is really neat. How they did all these designs is just amazing. But as you see his right foot in what we're looking at right now, the word on the side of that is tyranny. They've stomped out tyranny. He's sitting on the head of the lion. And I think, is it the Rothschild lion, right? Or is it the Rockefeller lion? Because that's the one in England where it's red and gold. And then it's on the original Israel flags that they were using, where there's a lion on both sides of a menorah. And it's that lion with his paw up, and you see the paw on the soldier's right shoulder. And the reason being, he's already conquered him. He's already skinned him. And there's the paw right up over the shoulder.
Wearing him, sitting on him. Yep.
And he's got the eye. What do you call that? An eyeglass? So the pirates would use it. They would look out and see what's happening on the horizon. The what?
Spyglass or?
Yes. Yeah. And so he's got that to keep looking out on the horizon and see how he's diligent looking out to make sure that tyranny doesn't come back.
Okay. Gotcha. So he's watching. Yeah. Diligently watching. I like that. He doesn't have arms or anything like that. He's just watching, making sure everything's staying the same. It's good.
Yep.
That is absolutely amazing. That's an absolutely incredible breakdown of all of that. So thanks for that. And so when you were at one of the events, the second time I guess you were there, you had that little boy that was coming around, and that's a great story too. Let me see if I can pull that back up and get that.
I think that's on the last slide of the and that happened this year. It was a really sweet relationship. While you're pulling that up, I'll tell you about what happened afterwards. He came up because Juan and I don't get to talk personally very much. So when everybody was all talking over to the side, we were just talking with each other. And this little boy came up and he kind of stood in between us. And he kept trying to look up at Juan, but he's so short that he just kept looking, and he almost fell over backwards. And then he came up real close, and you know how tall Juan is. And here's this little boy. So we didn't realize what he was trying to do. He was trying to hug Juan. So he's trying to put both of his little arms around Juan's legs and give him a big hug, because Juan did the closing prayer, and he just thought Juan was just amazing. And he looks up at him and he just goes, wow. And so Juan said, I heard you had a birthday. And he said, yeah, it was 4 days ago. And so he said, on the 10th, it's on the 10th. And I said, yeah. And he said, can you read? And he said, yes, sir, a little bit. So Juan took out one of his ID things, and he held his fingers so the boy could just see exactly what the birth date was. And the kid ran off and did a bunch of flips. He got on the side breakdancing, got on his back breakdancing, did a bunch more flips, and came back over to Juan. And he goes, wow. And I said, are you meaning that you guys are birthday twins? And he looked at me and he goes, twins? And he backed up and tried to look up at Juan again, but it's like looking at a tall statue to him. And he almost fell over again. And he goes, wow, because here we are as twins. But what happened is the day I arrived, and it was a special moment in time, he just kept following me, and he just kept staring at me and smiling. And when I would try and talk to him and said, I'm going to be talking, I said, you want to pray with me before I go and talk? And he goes, no, and shake his head, no, and he'd run off. And he did the same thing to his grandmother. So the day that we did all of this, Juan had already done the closing prayer, and we were picking everything up, and God said, give the microphone to Grayson. So I asked the grandmother, I said, God wants him to talk about the testimony. And she said, okay. So the reason he kept shaking his head no and running away from me, we let him tell the people what happened. His grandmother leaned over that night as she was putting him to bed, and she said, now, Grayson, you love to pray with people. I don't know what your problem was, but that wasn't nice what you did with that lady today. You should have prayed with her. And he goes, oh, Grandma, she was the one that didn't need it. And it's real simple. And she says, what do you mean she didn't need it? And he goes, didn't you see? There were a bunch of angels, just bright white and bright white light. Didn't you see it? She said, no, I didn't see anything. And so when she told me the testimony, that's the one God wanted him to give. So you can see at 4 years old, at 4 years, 4 days old, he's holding the microphone and he's telling the testimony, but he looked up at us for discernment first. And he said, am I supposed to tell us? And he was pointing like to Juan and the guys right around the microphone stand. And, or am I supposed to tell them? So he wanted to know, is this a story I'm supposed to tell for the public or is this just for us? And I said, well, God said you're supposed to share the testimony. And he said, okay. So he just, as you can see, he just totally took a hold of the mic. He gave the testimony. And I just said, all the bright white light is the glory. That's what we're supposed to be operating in and with each other. And so then he kept the microphone, and that's when he gave the little sermon that's at the bottom. And then he goes, Jesus handled Satan. We just have to kick Satan's butt. So please just start kicking Satan's butt. In the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, amen. And he had politely handed me back the microphone and ran off to play. That was it. Just do it, guys.
Oh, that is amazing. What a great story. Oh, so sweet. And because I've seen Archangel Michael, but that was a very special event. Sometimes I can see the angelic realm and I see the demonic realm as well, but it is only if I really focus on it. I'm just not like walking around and seeing it. So it's fun to see that the little ones sometimes have these abilities like that. I wonder how long he's going to keep that, or if it's going to start to fade away. It fades away for most of us, but hopefully he keeps it to a certain extent.
Well, I've had this 4-year-old thing goes on and on and on. It's in my Faith Walk book. 4-year-olds have come up to me all around the world and given me a picture of me I grew up on a farm in Nebraska, and I was marching in the meadow at 4. And the reason why I can remember it, because I went through 3.5 years where God sent people to tell me about Jonah and the whale. I said, God, I get the point, but I'm trying to find a guy to send. You want somebody to go to a men's ministry? It should be a guy. It shouldn't be me. And so what happened is I'm marching in the meadow and boom, I'm on my back. And he's going, don't you want to do what I want you to do? I said, of course I want to do what you want me to do. I'll do whatever you want me to do. And so then I ended up taking the assignment. And after 3.5 years, I said, I can't believe all these famous men. Some of them had books sold 60, 70,000 a month, and that's way beyond me. And so I said, God, I just felt they should be representing you. I can't believe they told you no. And he said, Sheila, for 3.5 years, you've told me no. And that was a major wake-up call. But the 4-year-olds have been doing this with me and drawing the picture and handing it to me. It's been in every nation he's put me in, every continent I've been on, every nation I go to. I get a picture from a 4-year-old with that in it. And there's so many examples of 4-year-olds across America, but the cutest one is the gal, and that's the biopic that I use because I just saw her at the 20-year reunion of when she was 4. And she gave me her old tambourine. She wanted a new tambourine for her 4th birthday to praise and worship with. And her parents said, well, why? And she goes, well, this one's getting so old. And so then they said, well, what do you want us to do with it? Well, I have to leave it here in the church. Well, why? Well, God's sending somebody. They just aren't here yet. I mean, they know these things, you know what I mean? And so when I meet with them, I tell the parents, ask them every day what God's saying. Don't let them depart from him. Because that's what happens. Remember, we're supposed to talk about like the other people do. We're supposed to think like other people think. We're supposed to become successful they were drawn away from that relationship. Mm-hmm. So when I saw her 20 years later, she went in her room and brought out all of these books, logs that she had all of this in, and she never had a question to ask me until that very week. And she went through school, through college, and now is a corporate position, and is just as tight and talking with the Father as she was at 4.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Beautiful.
Many examples of that. It's been quite a journey. And I think Juan does that same thing too. I think that's why he knew the things about this little boy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And the kid could relate. And I wish I had a picture. The picture I'm missing is him trying to put his arms. You can see how short he was. His head wasn't even up to Juan's knees, and just trying to give him the biggest hug. So precious. That's why they took away 64 million through abortion. They don't want them coming with the messages.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, that's very sad. So what is your plans for the future, and what do you see for America or for the world for that matter?
We're coming through globally.
Good.
The biggest mark of watching this was that global trip in 2017, where he went to every nation and met with the leaders and had the file. And starting in Saudi Arabia,
Mhm.
never a sword dance for someone like a Trump from America. Never would have happened
Never.
if it hadn't been such a glorious meeting. And then, what was it? 200 princes were dealt with within a week.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Royal family.
Mm-hmm.
And he went through all these other countries and ended up where? In England. And what did the Queen do? People don't notice that little bit of the video before they know about the one where he's inspecting the guard, the Queen's guard. She took off her little white gloves. You know, they always have to wear gloves. Took the little white gloves and laid them over the wrist of her left hand. What does that say? Seems to me like a bit of a surrender.
Oh wow, interesting.
And then she went with him, but he inspected the guard. He didn't leave her way behind. He didn't march way ahead of her, but it was very distinctive that he was inspecting the guard. And then there's another video. He did the same thing with Charles, because Charles isn't going to be the one inspecting the guard either.
Hmm.
Because Buckingham Palace has been boarded up and painted up since they removed them. Now, remember when they had COVID?
Right.
Removed Prince Philip and the Queen. They didn't remove any of us. Everybody here was locked down, isolated, everything. They removed them. And the same time they had it, King and Queen of Sweden, and that's why all the messages, what's happening with Eric's son? Ericsson, the company. So King and Queen of Sweden, president, wife of Harvard, all at the same time, all removed.
Hmm.
So we've been given all of these powerful things, and crossing over into North Korea, it was a forbidden city, isn't that what it's called in China? Never has happened before. I have felt since then, we just got to get this done. And that's why 4 books came out within 1 year from 2019 to 2020. And that's why there's so many books, is that you got to get the truth out to the people. And I have teenagers giving up their income. What do you call it when they earn something from their parents and they set it all aside to go to the conferences? Yeah, the allowances and stuff. And I've had seniors give up their senior trips and all their gifts just to come to the conferences to hear the truth. And they're being used, the books are being used for homeschooling. I never tried to talk about homeschooling. And now Kevin Sorbo's wife, Sam, is the national coordinator of the curriculum. Now she's looking at them for homeschooling. And I'm just shocked, because I'm just trying to get the word out, because we need to have hope, because hope in the future is what we're given. I mean, that's the promise, is hope in the future. Absolutely. So as bad as it gets, and every time I couldn't get my breath during this whole past 2 years, just thank you for the next breath, Father. Mm-hmm. Because it used to be, when I put the judges away, it was, now, Jesus, either bring me home or bring me through. Just bring me one or the other. Bring me home, bring me through. The next morning, so many times it was like, did we talk about this? Is this our joint decision that I'm going to keep going through this? Because it was pretty ugly. But we can accomplish these things. I mean, this is what you talk about all the time with people. And look at what you've been through. Would you have ever imagined what you have come through?
No.
And what you've done. And yet he's never left you. That's why you can see the things that re-encourage you, that you know it's real.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is amazing times. So I look forward to the future. It's very interesting right now. We never know which way it's going to go. God works in mysterious ways. So I just let it come as it comes. So, it's It's going to be amazing. So I'm looking forward to your work again. Love to have you back on in the future. So how can people reach you if they'd like to, Sheila?
Hisbest.org. It's under SheilaHolm.org too, but it's easier to spell his best. Hisbest.org, and they can get the books through there too, and or Amazon or Barnes and Noble or bookstores. It's a lot of places.
Yeah, very good, very good. Well, thanks so much for coming on. We'll put the links in the description box. Absolutely stunning information, and I really encourage people to get your 5 books. And when is the 6th one coming out?
Well, 6 and 7 had to be put on hold for the 45 points, and I'm going to get you some of that information so you can be enjoying that as a preliminary before anybody else can see it. So we'll do an exclusive together, and I'll get you that information so we can give that to the people.
No.
Then they said GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, said explosives. It was a bomb, explosives. But the hit of it didn't look like that, and it just looked like the hand of God. And then this afternoon, they said they had aerial video footage, because this is only the FBI surveillance video that shows you this. And they said, well, we need to see that it really was a lightning strike. And the aerial footage showed that it was actually a storm passing through, and lightning struck the stones. And you can see exactly where it struck.
You're not kidding. Right there on top, that V shape on top there. So when that video was going, there was a bright light that was on the side. And then all of a sudden, from that bright light, something came at the guide stones, and then it struck it. It looked like a bomb went off or some sort of explosion there. What was that ball of light that we saw?
Well, it was facing it. So it would be the lightning coming toward it. And I don't know if you're noticing what's happening with our lightning strikes. They're coming from the side, and many of them are forming an actual queue coming across, and they're not just going straight to the ground. But this was a huge strike right at the top of the capstone. It looks like the hand of God just gave it a good karate chop.
It does. Now let's for those that are not super familiar, before talk of vaccines and Bill Gates's, Freudian slip / prophetic declaration of his intentions that we need to reduce the world population. I had heard of the Georgia Guidestones, but that's when they really came onto my site, where I read the inscriptions on there and kind of came on. It's just an odd thing out in the middle of nowhere in Georgia. Tell people, what are these? Where are they? Are these ancient ruins from a previous civilization? Where do they come from? Who put them there, and what do they say?
It comes out of Georgia in Russia. That's where Madame Helena Blavatsky was from. She had traveled the world, supposedly, said she was a princess. She came into America, started an organization. Supposedly, they always start all these secret societies from scratch. It's called the Theosophical Society that she formed. And by the end of World War I, she was giving away free memberships. This is the ancient emblem of Theosophical Society. You see the Nazi symbol. You see the double triangle, which is the actual, they used it as David's star, and now they put it on the Israel flag. This is, and the Om symbol, and the Om deity is on the new one. The modern one has actually the corrupted cross, the double triangle, the Nazi symbol, and at the very top, it has the Om deity, and that's the Brahma, Vishnu, and then Shiva. Creator, supplier, provider, and destroyer.
Wow.
It's the other kingdom.
Man, okay, so what do these stones actually say? They have like an English breakdown of them. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
You've written about this extensively
in your books.
In your books, For the Sake of America. There's 5 volumes. Not a whole lot of people know enough about anything to write a pamphlet, to write 5 books on phenomenal things going on around the world. Is pretty phenomenal, For the Sake of America. But it's got deep roots from all over the planet. So talk to us a little bit more about these. How long have these structures been there? It is some mysterious sources, I guess, funding. I don't really know where that all came from.
Well, they call it the American Stonehenge, and it's a joke. They call it the tallest granite monument in America, and that's not true. Our faith monument's 81 feet tall, and this was 19 feet tall because that's their power number. They thought they were going to take over all of this, and it's all about reducing population. It's all about making room for nature. Don't be a cancer on the earth. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Defund the police. We have to go to world courts, giving up your sovereignty in America. And so that's what it does. And all of these disputes in a world court, you can see right here, avoid petty laws, useless officials, defund the police. We were at number 7 in 2020 when they were doing all the riots and everything. We've been just going down one by one and didn't know. But there was a guy that knew. His name was Walter Cronkite, and Walter Cronkite gave a summary of these words to the World Federation Association. I don't know what year it was in, but he was retired several years because his hair was completely white. He was much older than we knew him when he did retire. And when he summarized these, I thought, whoa, what is that? And then he ended his little brief speech by saying that Pat Robertson said the only time we'll be one world is when the Messiah returns. And everyone laughs in the room because they're part of the World Federation Association, right? And then he says, so I'm honored to sit here on the right hand of Satan. It came right out of his mouth.
That is unbelievable. We have that video. We will put it in the notes below so that everybody can be able to see that, a link to it, which is really interesting when you hear that to actually come out of his mouth.
I want to come back to the words inscribed on that. It's in, I think, a dozen languages inscribed around the stones. But if we can put that back on the screen, it says the first two jump out at me is maintain humanity under 500 million. Now, this was, I think, maybe 1980 or so when this was actually put up. So
322 of 1980. That's where the Luciferians think that we're cursed. We've never understood this. If you go to Genesis 3:22, it's when Father told Adam, he said, now they know good from evil, lest they stretch out and eat of the tree of life and live forever. Then there's a huge pause, Selah. Adam was so ashamed and felt so shunned, he left the garden. And so that's what the Luciferians are using against us. That's why all of these secret societies use 322, Skull and Bones, 322. And on 322 of 1980, they erected these. And it was all erected by people in the secret society. And the top guy was actually a knight in the Order of Malta, which is a sovereign international law order.
Wow.
So there's a lot more than 500 million people on the planet right now. So if your instruction number one, that's almost like sitting down with my kids when they're little and be like, I'm sorry, one of you's got to go. You know,
right.
like we're cutting their crew in half. We just can't afford you or something. I mean, that's baffling if you even think about it, but it aligns with the movements of the world and their intentions of what you've seen. Number two is guide reproduction wisely. Now that's not even a abortion life kind of an issue. That has a very strong eugenics kind of a tie to it of which fits into some of the rest of, you know, people that are physically fit and, you know, strong and rule with passion, all this stuff. But the idea of guide reproduction wisely, that's what I would do if I owned a horse farm. That's what I would do if I was breeding Dobermans. You know, I would want to guide reproduction wisely to come up with the best of the best. To apply that to a planet is scary at the least.
That's the Nazism. That's Mengele. That's Fauci. That's who these people are.
It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. So let's talk about where they're at right now. Take a look at
what's happening.
The results of what happened on that morning.
They started tearing them down. Why is that? Why are they tearing them down, Sheila? Were they just not? Was it dangerous now for people?
Right. It's completely unstable. When that capstone is cracked like that, that was the control, because that's the age of reason around, and that's the 4 ancient languages. And the 8 languages on the 4 stones and the 4 ancient languages ended up being the background for bricks. Capital B, capital R, capital I, capital C, capital S. And when Father said you aren't done with book 3, that's where the Georgia Guidestones are going deep in chapter 3 of book 3. of the series. And Father said, you have to tell my people about the brick. I said, I don't even know anything about mortar. How can I tell people about a brick? And when he gave me those capital letters, I said, I don't even know what that is. And he said, well, let's research it. So when I looked it up, that's the new world reserve currency that we used to have when we had gold.
Wow.
And they set this up. Now, the Guidestones went up in 1980. The world currency changed in 2008, and then they said South Africa fought to get in by 2010. Without South Africa, it wouldn't match these languages. It's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa.
Wow.
It all starts tying together and coming together. So these were instructions. These are designed to be a message that's considered sacred and almost holy. You were there on an anniversary, and people came from all over the world to see these granite stones in the middle of a field in Georgia. I think the world, especially that side of it that has that worldview, hold these in a much higher regard than probably the average citizen of the state of Georgia.
Well, the Luciferians know what it is. They worship this. This whole thing is set up as a worship center. And they said that if we lose the grid in America, you'd be able to find the North Star because you could come to this. And I just cracked up. I grew up on a farm in Nebraska. I know myself how to find the North Star. I don't have to go up to the highest hill in Elbert County in Georgia to try and find the North Star if we lose our grid. It's hilarious. But I've even seen buses come from Atlanta Airport, and the people want to come there as soon as they land. They're that excited to be there. I saw people coming in from Canada. Father controlled witches and warlocks in a car. They tried to come right after we came back in 2016. And these people couldn't get out of their car. They couldn't roll down their window. They couldn't open their doors. Their faces were all against the windows. And they finally took off. They knew that they weren't going to be able to ever get out and do anything to us.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's a component that a majority of, especially Christians, they might know, but they don't believe. The idea that the dark side takes their religion probably more seriously than we do. They pray, they fast, they make sacrifices. There is another element that I think is so beyond scary movies that Christians don't typically comprehend because there's such a cartoonized version of Satan. And you don't realize that his followers on this planet, Luciferians, let's get even deeper into that if you want for a minute, they worship, they sacrifice, they pray, they log the hours, they're committed 24/7. And it's hard to really wrap your head around that, especially if you grew up in a more behavior modification type of religion that's about just, don't drink, swear, cuss, chew, don't get in trouble with the law, that kind of thing, and be a good Christian.
And not walking in any power or authority of any kind.
These guys are seeking power and authority, and it's all about power and authority and how much of it they can grab, and they'll sacrifice anything personally to do it. And you see it with recording artists and executives and all the way around. But these guys are committed and they're serious.
They are absolutely committed. Most of them have been rejected from the Fellowship of Believers. I run into this all the time. And children who come up to me who tell me, like, if they're 17, 18, 19 years old, typically, then they're ready to make a choice to come back. And they want to get rid of the satanic hold on their life because it's a control and manipulation over your life. They didn't know. I actually included, I think it's in book 4 and book 5, the Illuminati oath, where you give up your soul to enlightenment. That's not what you do with your soul. And you don't drive a Kia car that's a soul. You're not driving in the soul. You're not giving your soul to enlightenment. We don't even know what we're doing. And the kids they were pushed aside and not accepted. They accept them because as soon as they can control them, they can use and abuse them the rest of their life. And they don't know that's what that's going to be. But the prayers to get these kids out of it is so intense, and the freedom they feel afterwards is so amazing. And many are very, very sorry they signed on for it, but they don't think they have another option. Any day you're walking the planet, you have another option.
Wow.
That's
okay, so we just had up your website, hisbest.org, and on that website, you have 5 volumes of this book, For the Sake of America. And obviously incredible information. Your price is wonderful. Thank you so much for
value.
Yeah, that is a great value for all of the information that people are getting. What all will they find when they read your books?
Every book has layers. This thing is so heavy with layers of infiltration into our nation, of things that people have done. They brought it here from Europe. That it's the counter to what the Pilgrims did. They banned everything that the European church was doing because they knew of the infiltration of the secret societies into that. And our Civil War was fought over this. And so every time I tried to leave Georgia, I wasn't going to write the first book. And when I did, I thought, okay, now where do you want me to go? And he just kept sending me back to Georgia. And he'd always give me the reason the night before I leave and tell me you're coming back in a couple of weeks. You know, I mean, and so because this is what I want you to know. And this is what I want you to tell my people. And so that's how this series happened. And there'll probably be 2 more. I said there would not be any more. But now there's probably going to be 2 more. And I just am finding out the reasons for those 2. So I don't know when those will come out, but the 5 take you all the way back to the Declaration of Arboroath. And that's in 1820, right in that time frame when they captured this and wrote all of this. They wanted freedom from the Pope and freedom from the monarch. And at the bottom of all of their signatures, and I couldn't figure out at first why God had me list all their names, they said that they were living to kiss the feet of this man just to gain some forgiveness of, can you just give us some freedom, just a little freedom. That's what we want. That was what the Declaration of Arboroath was about. And I knew Thomas Jefferson used it. I had no idea the control and manipulation over their lives.
Wow. Okay, let's go back to the Georgia Guidestones and what happened. We actually you had the video that was done at 4:00 in the morning, and you said that was FBI footage. Is that what you were saying?
All of the video surveillance, that's the only thing that's out there.
Okay.
The video surveillance has all been done because they used graffiti to try and destroy these painted all over them. And it used to be a sheriff's deputy that met us out there. And but it's funny how they would know exactly when we arrived. As soon as we pulled our cars in, it wouldn't even be 5 minutes, and there'd be a sheriff's deputy car coming up, and he'd want to know who we were and where we were from, because they really do protect these, because Elbert County is an all Masonic county. Oh, and the guys who put this together joked in the newspaper that they kept raising the price and et cetera, because then they thought it was a Shriner prank. So they were Shriners also, because they knew who the Shriners were. So there's a lot of clues that were available in the newspapers that nobody locally even began to understand. I've met 8 and 9 generation people in Georgia, because a lot of them had relatives on the Mayflower. Georgia is a very, very old structured state, and they have all of this background. They had no idea those Guidestones even existed.
Wow. Okay, so then during that film of that, there was actually snapshots that people did. They kind of just took it and took a picture, screenshot of that. Let's look at those as well, because I think it's interesting to see. You can actually see how that's happening. Okay, so that's one of the screenshots. There's one before. Okay, so that's the first one.
So let's make sure before we go this, the FBI is a film on this. This is security cam footage because it had been under attack already. People had graffitied it and had come against it. I know I think there was a state representative there in the state of Georgia that was calling for it to be taken down because of its satanic roots. So that's why we even have this footage. And so this is being collected. Mm-hmm. And the best they could come up with right out of the gate was an earthquake.
Because of the boom and the destruction. But nobody put into effect. There was a huge storm passing through at this exact same time.
Wow, that is just wild.
And we've had such heavy thunder. I've been in and out of Georgia since 2013. We have never experienced a level of lightning and thunder as these recent days. The thunder hits so heavy and so significant that all the windows in the house are shaking. You don't know if this is going to break the windows. That's how heavy this is, what we're experiencing right now.
Okay. So their second release once all the geniuses got together in a circle, they decided they were going to go with explosives that were placed up there that, couple of guys in the hills there in Georgia decided to come out and pull a prank and stick some leftover 4th of July fireworks on this thing or something like that. That some sort of, redneck MAGA hat guy just did this randomly. It's kind of more the vibe of the release is what we're seeing next. So went from earthquake to that. There's the lightning alternative. Is there any chance that that's a shot coming at it at a distance?
What's funny is GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, declared that it was explosives. They had a bomb squad. They said it a bomb earlier, and they said a bomb squad was out there. They were doing the investigation, and by this afternoon, they confirmed that it was explosives. And then this overhead video showed up that was taken, and nobody knows how that video became available, but it showed the storm going through, and it could have been from a weather channel because they had the whole storm going through and showing how it was all passing through, and they knew about the lightning strike.
Wow.
That wasn't released until about 12 hours later, about 4 o'clock this afternoon.
It seems peculiar to me that something can happen at 4 a.m. and by 4 p.m, there's a full-on construction crew out there to tear it down and remove all the debris. We're building a second studio right now, and just to get somebody to come out and give you a quote on putting in an air conditioning vent, it takes 2 weeks. How do you get, Caterpillar equipment and workmen and people like that within 12 hours? This thing never happened. It's gone. It's like bulldozed.
In fact, it's to the ground completely now. It's all the way dozed. There it is.
So 4 o'clock in the morning, this goes down, and then by 4 p.m, the debris is cleaned up. And the
attacks against Candace Taylor have been huge today. I've called her. We've prayed together. They've even gone out on Wikipedia and added her name on with the Georgia Guidestones because she said, when I become governor, these will be taken down. It's going to be really exciting for America to find out what happens in these elections in Georgia. I don't know if I should give away the clues now, but we know some things that have been going on. And there's a new film coming out by Laura Logan, Selection Code.
Yep.
There's a code inside the machine, and they find out who the popular person is. Let's just take example. I'm just throwing this out. Candace Taylor, becoming real popular. So she gets 70% of the vote, and Kemp gets 4%. And then you wake up after the election and she gets 4% and he got over 70%. And so there's some court cases going forward on this. It's going to be real interesting when you guys find out what happened in the 2020 election in Georgia and the runoff election in Georgia that we paid supposedly $400 million of the $800 million that we gave the GOP for the Stop the Steal. Georgia's going to be making some really big news. You're going to be really excited that you knew about this today and you look back at this because they're trying to blame Candace Taylor all day today. I mean, they are threatening her that she was behind this and she knows who the suspects are. And she knows who had the explosives. I mean, they're just saying all sorts of stuff on the media. And this is what we're doing to each other across this nation.
Yeah, it's
because the media.
I read that in an article today. They brought up her name, that she was saying that it was satanic and that it should be taken down. And so obviously trying to turn it on her. It's interesting how they try to do that.
Well, also in the same article we read that was initially released, they described the Georgia Guidestones as a monument to help perpetuate humanity and the well-being of mankind. And I'm like, that's interesting, because if I was going to walk into a cafeteria or place where there's 100 people eating and tell them, our goal here personally is to get rid of about 85 of you. So we form a line over here. Like, that would not be perpetuating the benefit of the people in that cafeteria.
This is what remember zero population growth? Mm-hmm. They went through zero population growth and then the birth control pills and then the morning after pills and then all the abortion. And then China, give up all your daughters. Yep. Let your daughters, look at how many have been adopted around the world. What they've done is taken our culture and they've taken it down to a point that can we recover? Can we recover without 2.1 children in every family? Can we recover from this? We're real close to reaching a point where we cannot recover.
Wow.
And that's why the first thing that came across my mind when I saw that picture Hand of God. Hand of God.
Wow. It's really very exciting.
This is an exciting time to be alive. It may not be it's a comfortable time to be alive because, not that many people are eaten by saber-toothed tigers anymore.
Right.
You can pretty much be a couch potato slacker in today's world, and you probably still can go over to your thermostat and change the temperature 1 degree if you want. No king in the history could do that. It's you had to chop wood all the time if you're going to stay warm in the winter. Everybody's always had to. It's a very comfortable type of prison life existence that most people are in physically and mentally in today's world. It's very interesting in light of the things that are happening, the kind of revelations that are taking place, because I think it's the best time to be alive, not because of the creature comforts of the things that we have today, because we're in a time of so much revelation,
Yes.
and so much breakthrough and so much truth being come out that people are waking up from the zombie states and actually waking up for the first time to what's going on in the world. And I think God's revealing himself in such a transparent way that I don't know man's really experienced, maybe ever, maybe on this side of the Garden Eden, maybe on this side of the Ark, I don't know where, but we're heading into a unique opportunity for us all.
In all of time, because they tried to do this during the Civil War. This is what the Civil War was over. They knew in 1847, this is so bad by now, Christ has got to come. He's just got to come. And they're saying the same thing now. But what an amazing thing that in all of history, his story for us, he chose us for this generation. So many people write to me and they say, you keep telling us how much he loves us. We're in an evil and chaotic world. Why would he send us here if he loves us? Because he loves you. He loved us so much, he sent his son to set the pathway for us. Then he loved us so much, he saved us for this generation so we could be the witnesses and the participants in the most miraculous time in all of history. I can't, every day it's just like, so what are we going to do today? I'm so excited because this is a different kind of war. This is a different kind of battle. And people keep saying, well, I can't wake up my family members. Keep on moving. Father said, Sheila, you're trying to find out who's really coming to me. If you're number 575 or 999 out of 1,000, you're still not going to see. So just keep on marching, keep on representing me, keep on doing what you need to be doing. I mean, when people just started calling me Georgia Guystone, there's a Georgia Guystones gal. Whatever events I go to, there's a Georgia Guystones gal. And all these years that I've been writing books, they said, Father, that's what all they're going to know me for. They're not going to know all the other things that you have me give them. And you said it was so important to do the trilogy, get people filled with faith, functioning in the storehouse so they can operate my currency. Because when everything collapses, my people have no idea what to do. Help me, Sheila. And those were urgent. I did all that in a workbook within 2 months back in 2014. I go, my job's done. Now can I get out of Georgia? Do you know what I mean? And every book, it's like, okay, I did that. Okay, now where am I going? Well, you're still here. And then what he decided to tell me is I traveled the world with him, always on his dime, because I had put some judges in prison in San Diego and some stuff, and I couldn't do anything, so I just wanted to go home. And he said, well, through me, you can do all things. I'm like, well, where can you send me? I'm not going to get another car this time. I'm not going to move to another residence. I'm not going to get a credit or debit card. I'm not going to do these things anymore. I'm tired. I'm done. And he said, I can send you. And he sent me on his, I had no way to do it. I used to have trailers checks. I used to have so much available on every single credit card. So I had a cushion.
Wow.
I didn't have any cushion, didn't have anything. But he said it was so important to show me what was happening. And I kept saying, Father, if you could send somebody to America, like you have people here who have such faith in you, because they don't have the common things that we have that we just take for granted. They don't have anything. They don't even make enough to pay their rent during the month. So you have to make everything happen for them. And they know who you are. And all they can tell people is every Sunday when they gather together, look how amazing my God is. Look how he has blessed my life. Look at the children he has given to me. I'm so blessed. We don't even talk like that in America very much. And I said, if you could send someone to America to do that. And I kept wondering why he kept sending me to Georgia. And he said, you asked for this. And I said, I don't remember ever saying Georgia. And he said, Sheila, you wanted me to send someone. So I decided to send you. I have repented and repented and repented.
You're like,
and
never
still
mind.
trying to escape and escape
rotten
and escape. But there's always another book. There's always more to share with the people. And when I told our mutual friend in January, he said, well, you know, you're probably going to have a 6 and a 7. I said, oh, no. I've gone as deep as I can go. I've told the people what I can tell them. It goes, I think, all the way back in history, explains everything and gives people the truth. And he said, no, I think there's going to be a 6 and a 7. I was so upset. And that night I said, Father, I don't know what he's talking about, because I've gone as deep as I can. I've been targeted. The Linwood thing, lost my hair, just starting to come back. And Father said a bunch of things to me. And so I made a few notes and I said, okay, there's going to be a book 6. He goes, no, this is for 7.
Oh.
And I said, what? And he said, I said, so what is book 6? And he said, I'm going to have to do more work. And I said, on what? And I don't know if you guys knew Russ Dizdar, but he was explaining all the 7 layers of Luciferianism, and it compares to all of the secret societies, and it's the basis, it's the roots of everything. And he's one of the 21 friends that I lost last year being targeted, and his wife passed also, so I didn't know what I could do. And then there I am at Coach Dave's huddle a week and a half ago. And the 2 guys that he trained up and mentored were there, and both of them have all the information. And I went, oh, shoot, that's going to be book 6. There is going to be a book 6 and a book 7. But God's that funny. He's that funny. I didn't plan any of this. Everybody goes, oh, you must have been writing for the Father your whole life. No, I'm just trying to keep myself busy when he sends me in and out of Georgia. And so they said, well, why are there so many 18 books? Well, I've been here. And I said, well, I'm in Georgia. I'm not in San Diego. I'm not making dinners for people. I'm not entertaining. I'm just getting the job done in Georgia to get on to the next assignment. And it's still about Georgia, because it's Georgia and America that they have always used to come against us. And everything that they've done to destroy us is seated in Georgia and America. And everything they've done internationally is seated in Georgia and Russia, because there never was a Ukraine. That's why it has no borders. And this woman, this Madame Helen Blavatsky, is from there. And that's why Ted Turner said he had to do this for his great-grandmother, because she was from Georgia. But she was not from Georgia and America. She was from Georgia and Russia. That's ancient Khazaria, and it's all been part of Russia. And there's never been a Ukraine. That's why it doesn't have any borders. But they call it Ukraine to disguise it. But this was all set up by King George. It's a stronghold in America and the stronghold internationally. And that's what you're witnessing. And I think Roe versus Wade started this. Clarence Thomas listed all of the cases that they decided to go ahead and review. Now, what are those cases? It's every single case where they decided and made law from the bench, which they cannot do in our land. It's against our Constitution. And he listed all of them when he gave the decision on Roe versus Wade. So that's, I think, why this is happening on this day.
Wow.
It's an interesting time. A lot of the characters that we've believed in, respected, trusted aren't what you seem. I'd like to end this real quick and play that clip of Walter Cronkite real quick, because, say our generation and above, he was the wise uncle in the living room every evening of my childhood. We had 3 channels, but really only 2 came in well. I mean, you grew up in Nebraska. You probably had rabbit ears. I was the youngest of 6, so I was the one making sure the aluminum foil worked so we could have the channels that we did.
Huntley and Brinkley. That's all we had.
Yeah.
So and these
until
younger
he came
generations
along.
don't know what you're talking about. That's the rabbit ears on your television.
Yeah, Google rabbit
and you would
ears.
put aluminum foil on them so you would get really good service.
Yeah. And they rarely worked at home just right. And if you were the youngest in a big family, you were the one that was holding the antenna to make sure it was right. That was my role. You're trying to look at the screen so you can see something that's on there.
Yeah.
But when he spoke, it was fact. It was truth. He was the voice. He was like, the most respected probably person in our world in my
the
childhood. Biggest platform. So it's hard for somebody today to picture that, but you'd have to roll up, I don't know, every late night host. You'd have to put Joe Rogan. You'd have to put, everybody, all the CNN anchors, Tucker Carlson. You have to put everybody into one ball, and that was Walter Cronkite, because there were so few voices that his was the voice for everyone. I want to just play that clip that you sent over, and just as we end, tie that into the message that was on those stones that were destroyed so swiftly and definitely supernaturally of some sort. So let's play that clip real quick. It's only like 1 minute, but catch this.
World government is the structure necessary for global justice.
I'm in a position to speak my mind, and by God, I'm going to do it. First, we Americans are going to have to yield up some of our sovereignty. That's going to be, to many, a bitter pill. Today, we must develop federal structures on a global level. To deal with world problems, we need a system of enforceable world law, a democratic federal world government. Most important, we should sign and ratify the Treaty for a Permanent International Criminal Court. Pat Robertson has written in a book a few years ago that we should have a world government, but only when the Messiah arrives. He wrote, and literally, any attempt to achieve world order before that time must be the work of the devil. Well, join me. I'm glad to sit here at the right hand of Satan.
Wow.
Because that would only be after the Messiah comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yuck it up. Yuck it up. Just wrap it up for us with commentary. I don't know if he wants to bring the words back on the screen. But what he is saying there is in perfect alignment with the message of these stones that however this happened, were knocked out effortlessly somehow.
Do you remember when he made the announcement that Kennedy was shot?
I've seen
and
the
he
clips
took
of
off
it,
his
yeah.
glasses, because this video is still, I think, around. He took off his glasses and it looked like he had a tear. And now to find out he was already operating in the secret societies that were involved in the killing of Abraham Lincoln and the killing of Kennedy. I mean, it's beyond comprehension of what we've accepted as truth. It's not. And that's why it's so important in these days to get tight with the Father, because the prayers for what happened today have been solid for many, many years. Father, your plan on this earth and no other. You're guiding us and no other. And people have been staking those guide stones. They've been remotely staking those guide stones. This was a huge topic at Coach Dave's huddle 2 weeks ago. There are pastors that he has joined together. He brought like 150, 200 people to the guide stones. They all prayed diligently about it. That's what Esther did. They were going to lose their whole culture. All of the Jews were going to be killed, all because of what Haman did. And in one night, people think in one night, it was all turned around because she knew the king and she got the signet ring from Mordecai. That's not how it happened. They prayed like there's no tomorrow because they didn't know if they had a tomorrow on this earth. It's the depth of the prayers of the people. It's the depth of the relationship with the Father Almighty. That's what's going to bring us through all of these things. So today is such a resolution with the Father that you can scarce take it in, because so many people have been so upset about this once they find out about it. But as people of the Father's family, we have the right, if my people who are called by my name, and that's again and again in book 1. Our president quoted it, Pence quoted it. He had my book before he was elected. And they constantly said that. And what land is God going to heal? What are we? We're a hunk of dust. We're the hunk of dust. If we can be healed, if we can repent, then he will do this. And every one of these books came out on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement and Repentance. No matter what